Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is another book review, my second book review of this channel. I'm super hyped to show you guys, and it's a sequel, so it's kind of like cool that it's like my second book review, but it's also like a sequel to this big epic fantasy series, which I'm reading. I'm pretty happy about, and that is The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan. Second book of the Wheel of Time. It's like 14 books. I have them up above me. I actually just finished this, so when you guys see it, it's gonna be on Monday, obviously. But I just finished this on Sunday, and I'm really trying to like absorb everything. Like this book took a little longer for me to read because it was during the holidays. So during the holidays, it's harder to really read books during the holidays. You guys all know. But anyways, yeah, The Great Hunt. This is what the cover looks like. So I'm not gonna lie, I feel like the biggest problem is when it comes to the covers is I don't like the covers too much for the Wheel of Time. There's a couple that I think are kind of cool, but most of them just don't look that good. I think my favorite one is like Path of the Dagger. I think that's what it's called. Also The Dragon Reborn, which I'm pretty hyped because I'm gonna read it this month, so I'm pretty hyped to see that one. And Lord of the Chaos is fine. Anyways, we're not talking about these covers. We are, of course, talking about the book. My thoughts on the book, if I liked it, if I didn't like it, so on and so forth. I think how I'm going to do book reviews is I'm just going to talk. I'm not going to be like, this is the good, this is the bad, this is my thoughts. I'm just going to talk about the book and then go from there. And this book is interesting because at first I didn't know how I felt about it. I heard every single person that was like, this book is way better than the Wheel of Time and The Eye of the World. And I was like, okay. So I already had in my head that like, this is way better. And I don't like how I had that already in my head that I was already like, all right, well, this is going to be like the best book of the series. But I really did enjoy it. I thought it was a really good sequel. But with that being said, I felt like there was parts when I was reading it that felt like it was just really slow. So like The Eye of the World was slow, but like I felt like there was a lot more payoff in certain parts. And it was weird because in this book, The Great Hunt, it's about this horn, the Horn of Valir. And what happens is, like, at the beginning, everyone's, like, chilling, hanging out in Camelin. And Fall Dara. Sorry, I mix up a lot of these names because the more I read it, the more, like, names are popped up and cities and stuff. And you're like, whoa, you do get overwhelmed, but I like to take my time with these books to really try and understand them as much as I could. Anyways, so as I was reading this, it was the whole group, literally everyone was there, was in Fall Dara. And they explained how like there's like a house where it's just all women and no men are allowed in there, not even wardens, which was kind of crazy to hear. And so what happens is Trollocs go and attack with and Padan Fain is there because he gets captured and he's there. And like Egwene's like hanging out with him. She told Rand, she's like, oh yeah, I go and talk to him all the time. He's really nice. And I'm like, what is your deal, woman? Like, are you nuts? Like my whole time I was like sitting there trying to understand Egwene's like motives for it. And I'm like, dude, Egwene's kind of dumb. Like that was my whole thought when I was like reading that. I'm like, Egwene, you are kind of dumb and you are way too trustworthy for someone like that. Like, and Rand's like, what are you doing? Like, why would you want to do that? So anyways, so they go down there and they actually, like meet Padan Fain again. And he's like talking a lot of crap to Rand, of course. And Rand's like, oh crap. And of the Trollocs come and attack Fall Dara and rescue Padan Fain. And Egwene gets attacked, but Egwene doesn't get hurt. And of course, they have to go get the horn. And the horn is with the dagger. And Matt needs the dagger or he will actually die. Like, Matt without the dagger is fine, but you can, over time and throughout the book, Matt progressively gets more and more sick, I guess. I guess that's the best word to describe it, because in the book, Robert Jordan explains how Matt is fine without the dagger, but he needs to go the White Tower to heal himself. If he doesn't, then he will die because he doesn't have the dagger. And so they all have to go after the horn and the dagger. So you have a whole group of Shanarans. I think that's how you pronounce it, Shanarans. Then you got Rand, Matt, and Perrin. And Egwene and Nynaeve I'll go to the White Tower to get trained as Aes Sedai. And the whole time you're like reading this, because like I said in my first review, my favorite characters currently is like Perrin and Moiraine. And I feel like those two, honestly, out of most of the cast in this book, really took the back seat. Like, this book is mostly about Rand, which is fine because Rand is the main character. But I felt like Perrin, Matt, and Moiraine, and like Lan really took a back seat in this book. So for when I was reading it, there was parts where I'm like, oh man. And Perrin's like barely in it, so it really did bother me because, like I said, Perrin's probably my favorite. And so is Moiraine. So they both, when they took a back seat, it's like, oh man, this bites. But the cool part is, you get to get a little bit more of a taste and a feel of the White Tower and more of the Aes Sedai. Like, I didn't know, like, what red Aja was or the green Aja. And then there's, like, a yellow and brown one. And I can't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But I don't think he explains what the red and brown one, the yellow and brown ones do. Like, he explains how the red and green ones, the reds, like, hate men, and the greens love men, essentially. Because Moiraine mentions that sometimes where, like, a green Aja will have, like, 6 wardens, and the red Aja has, like, none. Because the green Ajas, like men, and obviously the red ones don't. So it's a really interesting thing to, like, learn. And then there was a cool part with Moiraine. Moiraine had like a one-on-one moment with Lan, and they were like talking about how they first met. And it was actually really interesting that Lan ended up throwing Moiraine like in a river and stuff. And it's like, it really shows that Moiraine was like a child when she first met Lan. Like, she was just really innocent, and it just showed. And it was kind of crazy because then when you're reading it, Moiraine told Lan, like, hey, you're gonna become a different warden if I die. You're gonna go to someone else. And Lan's like pissed because then he's like, oh, so you're just gonna pawn me off like a dog? And she's like, yeah. Like, it was just really interesting to read. I didn't expect any of that, and I'm like, so the whole time I was reading this, I'm like, oh crap, Moraine's gonna die in this book. And it kind of ended with that part, and you never got back to Moiraine for the rest of the book. So in my head, I'm like, so almost every time I'd read a chapter, I was thinking, all right, this is where Moraine's gonna like fight someone and maybe she's gonna die, but nothing happened. So the more and more I was like, what is going on? And then you go back to Rand, Matt, and Perrin, and of course Lionel. You actually end up like getting to know Lionel a lot in this book. Like I said, like Perrin and Matt really take a back seat, but Lionel is like one of the main dudes in this book. So that was actually interesting. And what happens is, as they're all going, they are sniffers, like people can smell scent, and it's basically like dogs, and they are sniffing and trying to find Fane and the Trollocs. And one night, Rand, Lionel, and Herwin, I think that's how you pronounce his name, the sniffer, they wake up in like this whole different world, and because Rand grabbed a portal stone and teleported them to this different world, and what happens is time is different there. And that's how I got the vibe of. And like, so if it takes them like 2 weeks to get to somewhere, the portal stone could actually take them into this different world, and they could walk to where they're supposed to be and teleport there, and it might take them like 2 or 3 days. It's kind of crazy because like, while they're in this other world, they meet this girl named Celine. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I'm really bad at reading names, so if you guys can correct me down below, I would really appreciate it. But anyways, so when I'm like, they meet this beautiful girl named Celine, and what happens is, she's like, to me, I always think she's kind of evil. I always got a really bad evil vibe from her, because she's like, Rand, you need to hold the horn. You deserve the horn. I want to be with you if you get the horn. Like, I'm like, dude, this chick is psycho. That's all I was thinking about the whole time when I was reading this book. And I'm like, this girl is nuts. So Rand and Lionel actually were told from the sniffer that they actually found the Trollocs and Padon Fane. And I was like, oh, sick. So Rand and Lionel steal the dagger and the horn. Now, this is interesting. I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought if you touch the dagger, you become evil. And because Rand grabbed the dagger and he put it on his belt, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure if you touch that, you like become evil. Unless it's because it's already bonded with Matt, it doesn't affect Rand. I'm assuming that's how it happens. I could be wrong. But anyways, so Rand and Lionel steal the horn and the dagger, and obviously Trollocs and them are attacking. And then you go back to where they were at, because they escaped. And she was like really, like Selena was really pushing Rand to use this horn. She's like, let me touch in all this. And I'm like, Rand, you better not. And how Robert Jordan explains this girl, she's like gorgeous. And Rand, of course, is like mesmerized. He doesn't know how to like really react around her. And it's funny because he always keeps bringing up Matt and Perrin of how they would react because they're better with women. Even though Matt and Perrin are still doing the same thing where they're like, they're not good with women. Rand's better. And it's funny. To me, it's just, I always think it's a funny thing that they're doing that. And throughout this book, so they make it to this other town and where Selene grew up and raised. And they actually find out a lot of these things more, I guess, of what's going on. And Rand actually uses the portal stone to get there. And they were actually there for like a week. And a lot of weird things were going on. Like they call it the Great Game, I think that's what it's called. And with these towns, it's basically just political stuff that's going on behind doors. And Rand's like ignoring all of it. And then finally, Perrin and Matt and the rest of the army, the rest of the people show up. And they talk about what's going on. And then there's this thing that's really messed up through this book. It's called Demane. I think that's how you pronounce them. Demanes. It's Aes Sedais or women that can channel wear these like collars. And then you have these other girls who can't wear like can't channel. And they wear like these wrist things. And they call them their leashes. Like Demane leashes. And they can control you. Like basically if like the one who wears the bracelet gets hurt, the one who's wearing the collar actually feels twice the amount of pain. Like, if I punch myself in the face, the other one's actually going to feel way worse than I would, which is crazy. And it's just a way of, like, controlling people. And Naive, Min, Elena, I think that's how you pronounce her name, and Egwene follow one of the Red Aja through the way to get to the help the boys and stuff. And they go there, and they get captured by... I can't pronounce what these people are called. I thought they were sea chains at first, but it's not. I'm sorry if I can't pronounce their names. I'm going to call them collar holders or leash holders, whatever they're called. And they get Egwene and Min. So when they finally captured Egwene, Naive and Min, not Min, I'm sorry, but Naive and Elena, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She's the princess from the first book. And they're like, we gotta go save them. So they actually follow them to the town where Matt, Perrin, and Rand are all going to be going to. So, and then it ends with a giant conflict at the end. And I don't know, I always thought it was kind of interesting where in this book, Egwene has the collar. So does Min. But Min could, like, go freely and do whatever she wanted to. So I was like, does she still have the collar on? I just remember she had a collar on, but maybe she didn't anymore. So I was like, you guys can comment down to see if I'm making a fool of myself or not. I'd really appreciate it. But anyway, so this big epic battle happens at the end, and Matt uses the horn to call an army. Now, the army definitely reminds me of Return of the King when Aragorn goes into the cave with the sword from Gondor from his, like, bloodline to get the ghost army to come with him to help and fight at Gondor. It reminded me of that a lot, which is fine, obviously. But that's what the vibe gave me. And then Rand fights Balsamon up in, like, the sky. So everyone's like, oh, he's the dragon. And then at the end, he teases, well, at the end, they have Moraine talk to Rand. And she explains everything to him. Rand, of course, is still doing the same thing where he's like, I don't want to be the dragon. I'm not the dragon. All this, so on and so forth. Constantly telling himself, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. But he actually is. And he goes outside, and all the Shinarans are like, yeah, we broke our oath since you are the dragon. So what are you going to do? Like, everyone's, like, looking at him. What is his decision? Does he want to be the leader and the dragon, or does he just want to be like, deuces, and just peace out? My assumption is, because of how book 3 is, it's called The Dragon Reborn, I'm assuming Rand chooses to become the dragon. So that's what I'm assuming. But the thing is, even if Rand decides not to be the dragon, he's still going to be the dragon, essentially. It's still going to happen to him regardless, no matter how much he doesn't want to be. Which I thought was interesting. But all in all, I really like this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I think I liked it more than the first one, but at the same time, I didn't. I liked them both the same. They both are really fun to read. Like I said, my only complaint is just that it felt like they never showed enough of Perrin and Moraine. But obviously, there's 12 more books. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a plenty of those two characters. Let's hope. But comment to let me know what your guys' opinions of The Great Hunt is, and let me know if you guys like the book or not, and tell me which one's your favorite so I can look forward to reading that one in the future. Make sure you guys stay safe, stay hungry, and tell someone you love them. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!